Crimson Tide football started spring practice Friday of last week. I know it's kind of weird for it to have one day of spring practice. Then Coach Saban allows the young men to go home for spring break for a whole week. And then you have to pick it back up and go in full go the following week. But sometimes that's just how these things are structured. But Friday of last week, Saban opened the conversation with a lot of interesting topics. And sometimes you have to really see what is worth talking about versus what is not worth talking about. Because sometimes when Coach Saban takes the podium, it can be a little bit of that coach speak. And all the coaches give that coach speak. They speak in code. They don't want you to really know what's going on. But there are some moments where Saban says something, and I'm like, hold on, rewind that. Rewind that back one time. I want to hear all of this. I want to milk all of this. I want to get the understanding of all of this because this here, highly important. So Saban went through about 7 or 8 different topics in a span of 9 to 10 minutes on last Friday. One of the things he touched on was the center position on the offensive line. Of course, we all as fans, and myself in the media, our main concern is the offensive tackle spot, right? Who wins both tackle spots? You lose Evan Neal to the NFL draft. You're losing Chris Owens to the next level. So, who takes both of those tackle spots, right tackle and left tackle? I mean, you got Tommy Brockermeyer, you got J.C. Latham. It's a time for both of those two. You got Amari Kai, you got Damian George, you got Javion Cohen, you got Kendall Randolph. I mean, Saban named everybody but Paul, Peter, James, and every apostle I can think about. But the point being is you got a lot of bodies here at offensive tackle, and Saban named those guys, and we are concerned about those guys. But there was a question thrown to him about the center position. There was a question that went, Coach Saban, the offensive line is built from the inside out. And in the championship years of Alabama under your tenure, we have seen some of the most dominant, physically gifted, brute power, brute strength, highly intelligent, very instinctive guys that brought the whole group together from that center position. How are you feeling at center? What do you like about that position? Is that position confident in your viewpoint? And Saban said, yeah, I mean, I like center. I feel good about that position. I really like what we have there at that spot. And he listed Seth McLaughlin and Dorian Dellcourt as the 2 guys that he is very happy about at that center spot. Now, Saban said Dellcourt played pretty well last year. And then for me, I'm just like, I don't wholeheartedly agree with that. I know Saban is not going to put guys under the bus. He's not going to throw guys under the bus, and he should be doing that, being the head coach of the program. But me, when I look at Dellcourt, as talented as he is, he's talented. Came in the 2019 class from Maryland as a 4-star. He's talented, but inconsistent last year when you discuss, having issues with the snaps. Snapping the ball over Bryce Young's head. Bryce has to jump up and get the ball before it goes over his head. We know Bryce, not necessarily the tallest quarterback in the world at 6 feet. Well, they give him 6 feet, but he's probably more so 5'10". But snapping the ball almost over Bryce's head. Then he's snapping the ball way too low at Bryce's feet. But he's snapping the ball off to the side. Just could not consistently get the snaps right. Dorian Dellcourt. You can go back and watch the Florida game this past season. You saw that evidently in that matchup at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium in Gainesville. And there were other matchups as well that the snaps were not consistent. They were not going up and hitting Bryce in the hand or getting to Bryce's hands there. When the snaps were not off there, you had moments where Dellcourt not able to neutralize pass rushers from getting to Bryce Young. He gave up 5.5 sacks. And I know some people will say, but Steven, he had ankle injuries last year. He hurt both of his ankles. Yes, Dorian Dellcourt had 2 ankle injuries. I see it. I get it. But prior to the ankle injuries, the snaps were still off. Prior to the ankle injuries, he was still giving up sacks. So how much was it really the ankle situation? Because prior to this, still was giving up sacks. Snaps were still off getting to Bryce Young. Not saying that Dorian Dellcourt can't do it, but we saw the inconsistency from him a season ago. So when you look at Seth McLaughlin, completely different story. When McLaughlin came in there, The snaps were on point. There was probably one snap that was off with McLaughlin, and you had to really look and see. You had to really do some fine combing detail to see if that snap was off, but it was only one that was off. And then with Seth, did not give up a sack of Bryce Young, and these were in the big games when the stage was at its brightest, when all eyes were on you, and McLaughlin did not do that. When he came in against Auburn in the Iron Bowl second half, where it was, if Bama doesn't get a drive to tie this game, Auburn walks out of Jordan-Hare beating Coach Saban in Auburn, and Seth McLaughlin takes the field, neutralizes that pass rush from that center position, center control there, and assisting Bryce Young to going on that 12-play, 97-yard drive that ended up with the 28-yard game-tying touchdown pass to Ja'Cory Brooks, which set up the 4 overtime period. Alabama got the win 24-22. In the SEC championship game, we all remember this. Leading into the matchup, what were the people saying? Oh my gosh, Jordan Davis this, Jordan Davis that. Jordan Davis is a creature. He's a monster. He's an animal. He can't be stopped. Quay Walker this, Quay Walker that. Nakobe Dean this, Nakobe Dean that. Alabama's offensive line is going to be turned to mincemeat. They're going to get eviscerated by this Georgia defensive front and the creatures that Kirby has on that side of the ball. Seth McLaughlin handled Jordan Davis in that game. I mean, Bryce Young was able to go out there, throw for 421 yards, 3 touchdowns, had a few beers, did a 2-step, watched Oprah, was probably hitting the Dougie. You know, Bryce Young had a good game out there, setting records out there. Why? Seth McLaughlin blocking in front of him. You look at the Cincinnati game, McLaughlin showed you the versatility. Not only can he protect Bryce Young, but he set up Brian Robinson to have a 200-yard day, 204 yards rushing, a bowl game record when you look at Alabama football in a playoff game, bowl game. But even in the national championship game that Alabama lost into Georgia, McLaughlin still played well. So for the most part, played in 10 games, had 3 starts, 301 snaps. When the games were at its brightest, he played his best ball. I mean, 6'4", 295 pounds. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but he's feisty, he's physical, he keeps coming, he gets after you, he's tough. Saban called him a leader. And I'll say this, when McLaughlin's on the field, you're going to feel along of him. You're going to get on with him. He going to scrap. He is going to scrap. And when you discuss the players in years past at Alabama in the Saban era to win national championships from that center position, 2009 and 2011, we're talking William Blahos. 2012, we're talking Barrett Jones. 2015, we're looking at Ryan Kelly. 2017, we're looking at Bradley Bozeman. And then 2020, we're looking at the guy LD, Landon Dickerson. What they all had in common, strength, brute power, toughness, physicality, scrappers, highly intelligent, big football IQ, wanted to get everything right, prepared religiously. Especially Barrett Jones. I mean, he got into a fight with A.J. McCarron on national TV in the title game against Notre Dame. Why? Because Barrett Jones was like, look here, A.J., I'm the center, right? I'm the center. I'm making the call. I'm trying to get this right like you trying to get it right. Look at me. I'm the captain here. Look at me. Like, Barrett Jones is literally going to war here with A.J. McCarron wanting to get the play right. You have guys like Landon Dickerson, who just found ways to bring everybody together there on the offensive line. So offensively, going back to the national championships here, there was always this one major component, and that's there was several major components, but it was always the strength, the power, the endurance, the IQ on the field, the communication on the field, but also that ability to, you want it just that bad. You scrap, you fight, you tough about it at that center spot. And I think McLaughlin has a lot of those traits here for Alabama. So I think he's definitely starter. Dorian Dellcourt, backup center, or I got to find a different position for him because McLaughlin's the guy. But the question comes down to is Saban mentioned developing a third name at that position. Who would be the third guy? Because you got to have depth. You need to have depth. You're hoping that nobody gets hurt. You're praying nobody gets injured, but you got to have depth at every spot. So who would be the third guy? Well, James Brockermeyer came in the 2021 class, 4-star from Texas. I mean, he's good. All Saints Episcopal High School. His brother Tommy came in with a bit more hype than he did, but James is good. I mean, one of the top centers in the country, so that would have to be a name that U.S. fans would think would be developed there at that spot in the middle of that offensive line there. Along with Brockermeyer, you have to look at, Emil Ekiyor for this reason. As much as he has settled in at guard, that guard position is one where you got to be a junkyard dog. You got to be mean, monging, mashing, wrecking people, meaning business in that phone booth when you're playing at that guard position. And to me, does Ekiyor fit better potentially as a center versus a guard? Because he did come out of high school, 2018, from Cathedral High School in Indianapolis. It's one of the top center prospects, in the country. So it's going to be interesting to see here who that third name could be. Could be Brockermeyer, could be Ekiyor. We'll have to keep an eye on that. But Seth McLaughlin, to me, the number one guy. It's just who is able to rise, step up, and sort of help him at that position.